I identified a wound that I was carrying from childhood is that I felt unlovable. I was putting up walls and didn't even know I was using sarcasm, anger, all kinds of very sophisticated ways of pushing people away. When I walked out of there, the grass looked greener, the sun was shining, I could feel the wind in my face. There was a new man walking out of there.
Welcome to the Crucible Project podcast. The Crucible Project is a nonprofit organization committed to creating a world of men and women who live with integrity, grace, and courage, helping them to fulfill their God-given purpose. This podcast will discuss important and sometimes difficult topics while delivering practical life applications with men and women who are currently practicing this work. We are united Christ-like change and learning new experiences of radical honesty and grace.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Crucible Project podcast. My name is Andy Spale, and I will be your host today, and I'm excited to have Harry Swanson here all the way from Michigan to talk to us this morning. So, Harry, would you please tell us a little bit about yourself? What do we need to know about you?
Well, I'm a Yooper, so when you say Michigan, it's Upper Peninsula, as far north and west as you can go and still be in Michigan.
Okay.
Almost a cheesehead. But yes, I'm a licensed professional counselor, and I've worked in that field for a while. On my fourth marriage, I have two biological daughters and a stepdaughter, and a wonderful wife. We've now been married for 29 years. That particular marriage, or this marriage, has been a catalyst for me finding and pursuing the Crucible Project.
That is awesome, man. We will talk about some of those things and what you've learned and what Crucible has brought to you. So thank you for being with us today. And I love that you're a counselor. So this is great. So what brought you to the Crucible Project?
Well, that's quite a dynamic story. I mean, I had gone to a conference called the American Association of Christian Counselors in Florida. My wife and I at the time thought, well, we can tag on a gator hunt at the end of that. So we just made it a nice little getaway, but she was in a lot of physical pain and I wasn't doing real well in the heat. So in some ways it was great. Other ways, I went through and found a flyer for the Crucible Project. I was just grabbing resources for my clients and I tucked them all in a bag, got home, shoved it in a corner. 2 years later, my wife came downstairs on New Year's Eve of, I guess it would have been 2023, had a bag of clothes and said, "Hey, Harry, I'm leaving you. Can't do this anymore." So it was a wake-up call and decided at that point, this is marriage number 4. It's not the women. It's got to be me.
Wow.
And in our marriage, we've gone through all kinds of marriage retreats and marital information because we knew we were coming into a mess. But apparently, all that knowledge I had in relationships was not adequate, not enough, because here I am facing trouble again. So I decided I was going to be the best man I could possibly be. And at a couple months into the separation, I went up and found that my bag from AACC and started digging through it. I thought, you know what? The only thing that's going to make a difference here is God. So I found all these, what I would call feel-good retreats. You're going to get closer to God, but I've been on those things.
Yeah.
And I wanted something that's be real. I wanted a breaking point, God to have his way with me. And I found that Crucible flyer. It was vague enough that I thought, I kept talking about results. And the result I heard in all the testimonies and what I saw online was what I wanted.
And so you went, and so you decided to go.
I signed up, and here's the interesting part, Andy. We reconciled. That was New Year's. She separated. We reconciled in mid-May, but shared with me later that I was just not sure. I had seen a lot of change, and I kept flipping back into old behavior. Every now and then I would say something or do something that would just cut to the core. But I had already signed up for my Crucible Project in February, and when I came back from that thing, I was a blubbering idiot going down the road. I thought, my goodness, I was supposed to meet with her over in Wausau, Wisconsin. We were going to attend something else. I don't recall what it was, but I was this was the end of the weekend.
Yeah.
I was blown away. And it was end of September, actually October 1st of 2024. By December, my wife was saying, whatever they did with you on that weekend, I want it.
Wow.
And by March of 2025, she went on her weekend.
So it changed you. So going into the weekend, man, that's a great story. And I felt the same way, Harry. I called it Kumbaya weekends. I didn't need another Kumbaya weekend when I went on mine.
Yeah.
I knew that because I'd go on the weekends and they're great, but I'd go on these weekends, but I'd just come back the same. Like nothing would really change. I'd feel good for a few days. I'd make some, I want to change this. I want to read my Bible more. I want to be closer to God and all those things, but I needed a catalyst. And that's what Crucible did for me. So when you went on your weekend, what did you want? As you went in, What was it that was like burning inside of you?
One of the things that I guess I had some insight into that heading into it, Andy, but I didn't know how quite to ask for it. In my pursuit of becoming the best man I could be, I went on a healing prayer weekend, probably end of February, shortly after I signed up for Crucible, actually. And in that weekend, I identified a wound that I was carrying from childhood is that I felt unlovable. So when I went to the Crucible weekend, and one of the questions they ask you is, what do you want? The very thing you just said. And I didn't know quite how to put it in words, but ultimately I got to the point where I wanted to feel lovable.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that that was it. But what I didn't realize is that carrying that wound, Annie, I was pushing people away in my life. I was putting up walls and didn't even know I was using sarcasm, anger, all kinds of very sophisticated ways of pushing people away and confirming in my own mind, almost a schema, that in fact I am unlovable. See?
Right. I know you're a counselor. Why, Harry, would you do that? The very thing we want is what we make it hard for people to do. Why do we do that?
Yeah, I think in a lot of cases, I mean, certainly in my case, I was wounded at a very young age. You know, we're vulnerable from the ages 3 to 11. Those are our most impressionable years. And when things happen there, we take it in. And for normal child development, that's where we're looking around our world and seeing it as I did this. Everything is I did this. I caused that. So we're taking those wounds to the core of who we are. And oftentimes we operate based on those distorted beliefs. My mother left my father 3 times by the time I was 5 years old. And because I was the oldest child, I got left helping my dad deal with the younger ones. And I was not that much older. You know, I was a kid too, you know, come on. But I carried that if mom left me, how could I be lovable?
Right.
And I didn't realize that I interpreted it that way as a 5-year-old child and carried that deep within me the rest of my life.
Right. And is it a way, I think sometimes as I've looked at it, is it a way, Harry, for us to almost protect ourselves? If I don't let anybody in and I can just believe I'm unlovable, at least I won't be left and hurt by somebody else. It's like we almost sabotage the very thing we want.
Absolutely. I like the words you use there. We protect. We protect that falsehood, that lie that we believe. Oftentimes it's burned right in our brain as a path, a trauma wound, whatever that might be. Believe it so deeply that we have to protect it.
Yeah. And it's just crazy how our minds work. But that protection, it feels like a blanket. It feels good. And it's weird that a trauma can feel good. And yet if it's what we know, it's what we're used to. It feels maybe right or comforting or something. It just feels, at least I know that. I may not know other things, but at least I know my pain, can live with that.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely correct. It's the thing we know and the fear of the unknown. Fear is a driving force for us as humans. And who am I without my pain? Who am I if I'm not scared all the time?
Right.
Who am I if I actually trust and get hurt?
Right. Yeah. So you got to the weekend. You wanted to know if you're lovable. How did God show up?
It was just an incredible experience. The Crucible Project has techniques and processes that just make it possible for you to address your pain with God. And wow, he did that. And I felt that wound healed. No other way to word it. I felt the wound healed. And then various other things on that weekend that were just incredible. And, you know, God had given me a vision ahead of time. I really can't go into what it was, but that vision was actually duplicated on the weekend. And that just shook me right to the core.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And you get so close to the man, but there's no way you can believe the lie of being unlovable.
Right.
You have 20, 30 men around you, and all of them are pouring love into you.
Yeah.
Undeniable.
Yes. And, you know, you said God met you there and he helped you heal your wound. You know, I don't know if you had this feeling, Harry, but in some ways, I almost felt like on my weekend, and I didn't know how to say it because I was a grown man and I looked back and I was thinking, how did I believe this? But I almost was like, I wonder if God really loves me as well. I think there was even a question for me in that, even though I knew he did, but I don't know that I knew he did. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And it wasn't so much that God helped me heal it. He healed it.
Right.
It was like, I was going to say a slap in the face, but that is not it at all. It was like a bear hug, and I'm not going to let you go until you know.
Yeah.
Until you know that you are loved.
Yeah, that's awesome. So he showed up on your weekend. You knew you were healed and you were lovable. Did you have the experience that it changed the way that you saw yourself as well?
Absolutely. When I walked out of there to head for the parking lot, I mean, there's tears pouring out of my face. The grass looked greener. The sun was shining. breathing. I could feel the wind in my face. I was alive in ways that can't even begin to describe. There was a new man walking out of there.
Yeah.
And that new man knew that he was lovable. There was a Heavenly Father that had just stepped down and met my needs right where I was at.
Yeah. And did you even know cognitively, maybe you felt it, but did you even know you had some of those needs that he met or that they could be met?
Well, one of the most amazing things is when we realize that we are lovable,
Yeah.
that we are truly God's. I mean, we hear that in Christianese all the time. God loves you. God is love. And just scriptures tell us that all the time. God so loved the world. But when you truly have been embraced by God and almost feel like it's been a face-to-face, and that's hard to say because it's happening from internally as well.
Right.
You're fully embraced. That's an experience that can't be denied.
Right. And how has it helped? So I feel like Crucible Project helped me in my discipleship and in my relationship with God. How has your weekend helped you and subsequent things that you've been doing, because there is a journey? How has it helped you in your discipleship and your relationship with God?
It's been pretty incredible. I came back to my church. I got to manage to get 4 different people just from our small congregation here in rural Upper Peninsula to take a weekend. And I have probably a dozen others that are contemplating from our region and area. I talk about it all the time. And what I emphasize is that there's an accountability. There's some men out there that are willing to walk side by side with you through life. That it isn't a journey that you take by yourself. And sometimes we get lost in the church Sunday morning, shake hands. Oh, man, good seeing you. Yeah, wonderful that you're here today. And then you don't hear from them until next week.
Right.
Or, the next time you show up in church, whatever that might be. With Crucible, I got a growth group on Tuesday night. I got accountability men that call me once a week, connect with the Better Man check-in. Throughout the week, I've got men asking me, Harry, are you doing what God's calling you to do?
Yeah.
And I could tell you many, many times I'm saying, I wish you wouldn't have called today. Yeah, I'll get on that.
Right.
Well, because they won't let you sit in your muck. And that's a beautiful thing about Crucible Project. It's here to encourage you to be a better man, to be all that God has called you to be.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. So since then, how has your life changed? What does it look like? How's it different? How's that for a big old question?
That's a big question because, I guess I would have been 63 when I went through the Crucible Project. And all the guys there, I went through with a bunch of late 20s, early 30s guys,
Yes.
half my age.
Yes.
So I was the old man. And in fact, I was damn near older than all the guys that were staffing. So there was a uniqueness to that, but it has led me into pursuit of what does God really have for me. I've since then been on an elder retreat with the Crucible Project, and the focus there is how do you finish well? What has changed? My focus on what is important, what is life. And, my wife and I are now pretty committed Redwoods. She's going through the program to become a certified Crucible coach. I guess my pursuit of God is from a humble perspective, and I honor and revere all that he has in his word, in his messages. I know that he can speak through individuals powerful ways, so I listen.
Yeah. So you talked a little bit about your mom leaving. That was difficult. Did she come back at some point? Or?
Yeah, she did. Like I said, she left 3 times and she did come back. But that's the challenge in it, is that she came back and stayed, but I don't think she was ever happy. She was there for the kids. And then as soon as the last child, my youngest sister, left home, she was out the door the very next day. But then my father agreed. They ended up almost raising my oldest sister's children, because she went through a domestic violence situation. Great grandkids, they started taking care of those.
Mm-hmm.
They raised her kids. When my mom left, my dad was left to make a decision. Either there's not going to be any babysitting going on here, or he's going to do it himself. And my mother expected him to just quit doing that because he didn't raise us kids.
Right.
He was just like an absent father, even though he was right there in the house. So when he told her, well, I'm just going to keep raising these kids, she came back. She came to the rescue again for the children. This is the example I had for relationships, is you get in the relationship, no matter how bad it is, you stick it out.
Right.
So shocking that I'm on my 4th marriage. I tried to stick it out, but they kept showing me the door.
But now, how many years now with your current wife?
It'll be 29 years this year.
That's pretty amazing. Yeah. That's pretty amazing. So with your mom, with the upheaval, with the coming and going, I know you said you felt at times unlovable. Looking back, what were some of the other messages you took on about you that made it difficult in your adult years?
Yeah, I developed a very serious dysfunction with food because when my mother came back, I wasn't right about the same time she came back or shortly after. My father went to discipline me, pull out a belt, and he was going to teach me something, right? My mom came in and said, "Hey, you haven't parented up to this point. You're not going to start that way." And pulled the belt out of his hands. I was free, So now I knew that Dad couldn't do anything to me. Along with that, at mealtime, I'd clean my plate off. Mom would give me all the kudos, all the edifying. Good boy, would you like some more? Well, I didn't want any more food. I didn't need any more, but I certainly accepted the praises, so I took more food. So food became a way to get attention, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
It started out initially positive, but of course,
Yeah,
excesses in anything is going to get you trouble.
absolutely.
And then, there was a time when I really desired my father's attention, and I tried really hard. When I was about 15, 16 years old, I started doing absurd things, trying to get my father's attention. The Bible says he disciplines those he loves. Well, my father wouldn't even discipline me, so I would do things that had to be disciplined. At one point, I went out and got hammered and totaled out his truck. I thought for sure this would be. And there was a lot of things that led up to that should have been disciplined as well. But instead, I got the shame. He would tuck his head down and just shake it like I wasn't worthy of his love. I wasn't good enough. You're not worth my time. So there was a lot of messages that came through those things that really left a young boy pretty messed up.
Yeah, and wounded.
And of course, and it led to a life of addiction and all kinds of dysfunctional behaviors.
Right. So if there's a man and woman listening to this right now and they're thinking, yeah, I don't have that kind of trauma, or I don't have this, or I don't have that, or I don't know if this is really a weekend for me. I wonder, whatever. What would you say to them about the weekend and why you would encourage them to go?
What I would tell them is that we all carry wounds, all of them. And what's a wound to one person isn't anything to another. And you're probably carrying some things that are in blind spot that you're not even aware of. Without that awareness, you're not going to be able to do anything about it. Crucible Weekend will give you an opportunity to really examine those dark places in your life, those places that aren't working right. The issues are probably much deeper than you would ever envision, ever understand. Take the chance to find a much deeper, substantial relationship with God that consists of healing and new directions.
Yeah, awesome. Harry, this has been great. Thank you so much for sharing today. Those of you who are listening out there, www.thecrucibleproject.org, I think, and maybe I think it's org. Anyway, look up the Crucible Project. Look at our weekends. We have men's and women's weekends. We've got them all over the country. We've got them all over the world. I just got back from doing a weekend in Virginia, and God showed up there. God will show up in your life. God has something more for you. And Harry and I would both be people that would testify to you will not regret going because you will walk away with something that will change your life. And so we invite you to one of our weekends. Harry, thank you so much for being here. I can't wait to either meet you face to face or to have another conversation with you soon.
Sounds great. Look forward to it.
Thank you, sir.
And blessings.
For more information about our weekends, please go to thecrucibleproject.org. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Rate and review wherever you are listening and subscribe on your preferred podcast platform. Also, don't forget to check out myjourney2.com for your free 2-week trial. That's myjourneyto.com. Thank you for listening.